In this video, why the polling information from Angus Reid isn't worth the cell phone it was collected on. Hi, it's John and welcome to the channel. 4:43 a.m. Tuesday, February the 10th. I hope you're having a great start to your Tuesday morning. I do have my big blue mug of coffee with me, of course. I appreciate you clicking on this video. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, help me get to 50,000. If you would click on subscribe, I would appreciate it. And keep in mind that clicking on the big blue mug does not subscribe you to the channel. Just click on the button below. So today I want to talk about polls. I used a quote the other day, lies, damned lies, and statistics. And polls are statistics. And I'm seeing all over social media today, people who don't like Alberta. They don't like Alberta and Albertans. It's quite evident from what they say about us out here. But also from people who are anti-independence posting a poll from Angus Reid saying that there's very little support for Alberta independence. I'm going to call BS on that. So what I want to accomplish in this video, I'm going to try to do this quickly, and I've jotted it down because I kind of want to go through these step by step. I'm going to talk about the Angus Reid poll, why it is garbage. I'm going to talk about another poll with more participants done virtually the same way that shows completely different numbers. I'm going to show you another poll a month ago that shows different numbers. I'm going to show you a real poll done 5 years ago that the Alberta independence movement needs to tap into to get out the vote for us to leave. You're going to hear from a very good authority a few of the reasons why Alberta is pissed off. So if you live in the rest of the country, you're going to love this. You're going to understand even more why Alberta wants to leave. And this woman spits fire. So stay tuned for that. And even with the flawed Angus Reid poll, what we can learn from some of the information in there. So let's take a look at the poll right now. So let's take a look at the Angus Reid Institute poll. I'll put a link in the description so you can read it. And unity or separation, Quebec, Alberta, and Canada's future. In Alberta, a divided right dampens the sovereignty spark. So here's the question they asked. If a referendum was held today on Alberta separation, would you vote for Alberta to leave Canada and become its own independent country or stay in Canada? And they asked less than 1,000 people in a population of 5 million this question. Would definitely vote to leave, 8%. Would lean toward voting to leave, 21%. So what they're touting is less than 30% would actually vote to leave, while 57% would definitely vote to stay. I call bullshit on this because I just don't like the way they do polling anymore. I don't trust the polls at all. If we go all the way down to the bottom, find out how they did the poll, and then I'm going to show you another poll done virtually the same way that shows different results. How we poll. The Angus Reid Institute conducts its polling entirely through online research, surveys, or studies conducted on the internet via a personal computer, tablet, or smartphone. Well, let's do another one with an online survey with 20,000 people. Just take a look at this. So here is Chris, Minister of Smart Arsery. It's a poll of 900 people, folks, referring to the Angus Reid poll I just told you about. Here's also an online poll of almost 20,000 people. And here's the question. This is the actual question that will be asked in a referendum later this year in Alberta. Should the province of Alberta cease to be part of Canada and become an independent state? And in this poll, 76% said yes, 24% no, and again, 20,000 people as opposed to the Angus Reid poll of 979. These are both online polls. But here's the interesting thing. The people who love this poll and look at this as absolute proof that Alberta will not leave, Canada hated this poll that came out not too long ago. Here's Rachel Parker. It's happening. A new Ecos poll shows 41% of Albertans agree that their province would be better off as an independent country. My side loves this poll, hates this one. Their side loves this poll, hates this one. That's why I dismiss them all. But I've got a poll coming up in just a moment that is absolute proof that there is a treasure trove of votes for independence out there, and I don't think the Alberta independence movement is going after them the way they should. Now, for those of you who live in the rest of Canada, you're probably wondering what the hell is going on. I've said here before, and other people who have been on this channel talking about the independence movement have said, people out east don't understand Alberta at all. You don't understand us. We're not like you. We're different. But here is somebody who is going to, and I said right off the top, she is spitting the truth here. Look at the determination in this woman's eyes when she says the following, okay? And it's coming up in just a moment. These are just a couple of the reasons why Alberta wants to leave, which leads me into that poll I just told you about that is a treasure trove of independence votes. So listen to this woman and why Alberta has such a grievance. And this is a woman who wants Alberta to remain in Canada.
Ottawa overtaxing us. I mentioned that at the beginning of the evening. That our program costs are 70% of all tax dollars. We only collect 40%. Ottawa collects 60%, and then they use political means to transfer it. Alberta, year after year, has $20 to $25 billion that is siphoned out of our system to go to Ottawa so that it can be spent mostly in Quebec, but also in other places that vote Liberal. We have been watching this for years. $600 billion in the last 40 or 50 years that have been taken out of this province. You don't think we might be able to do a little bit more on social spending if those $20 to $25 billion stayed here? You don't think we'd be able to cut taxes a bit if those $20 to $25 billion stayed here? It is $5,000 per Albertan that every single year gets transferred out of this province for political reasons so that the Liberals can continue to spend it in places that vote Liberal. That is what is happening in the province.
This video should be required viewing for everybody in Alberta and in Canada as well. Maybe people out east understand a little bit more why we want to leave, because you don't understand the West at all. And Danielle Smith spitting fire there, as I said at the beginning of this video. She's pissed off about this. And she wants Alberta to remain a sovereign province within a united Canada, whatever the hell that means, or words to that effect. But this leads right into the poll that I think is very important, that actually happened, that means something, that is accurate, unlike the polls we talked about earlier, because I don't believe them. Lies, damned lies, statistics. I'll get to that poll in just a moment. But just think of the number there. $5,000 for every man, woman, and child in Alberta goes east every year, and we get nothing for it. If you're sitting on the fence with independence, how would that change your life if everybody in your family could have an extra $5,000? It would change it immeasurably. So start thinking about voting for independence. But what am I talking about when I say we actually have a poll that matters? I'm talking about this. This is an accurate poll of Albertans on the issue Danielle Smith was just talking about. And this is a treasure trove of votes for the independence movement, because these people who voted in this referendum back in 2021 are pissed with our relationship in Canada. I have mentioned a number of times to members and leaders of the independence movement this referendum, and nobody wants to talk about it. If we could get a majority of these people voting in favor of independence, we would win in a landslide, but you don't hear much about it. So what was the question back on October 18th, 2021? Well, here it is. Should Section 36(2) of the Constitution Act 1982, Parliament and the Government of Canada's commitment to the principle of making equalization payments be removed from the Constitution? I voted yes. And so did 61% of Albertans vote yes, because we're tired of giving our money basically to Quebec. Here's a story on it right here. Albertans support bid to change equalization. 62% voted yes. And then there's this story over here. Albertans vote in favor of scrapping equalization with over 61% saying yes. There's Jason Kenney, who was premier at the time. Now, here's the thing that you need to sell to the people, the 62% of Albertans who do not want us to pay equalization payments ever again. Here's what we need to say to them. This will never happen unless we leave Canada and we can keep all the money to ourselves to enrich our province and your family. Any changes to the Constitution require approval from the House of Commons, as well as the Senate and at least 2/3 of provincial legislative assemblies. This will never happen in Canada because the gravy train would have to come to an end, and the gravy train goes right from Alberta and it goes out east. This is the type of polling that actually matters, folks, and we need to take advantage of it. Don't pay attention to the rest. I think a lot of polls are meant to influence the way people feel, as opposed to actually reflect how they feel. I do think there's something that can be learned from that original Angus Reid poll, and it's right here highlighted in blue. For the definite stay voters, nearly all find their own Canadian identity, 92%. Alberta's fundamental place as a part of Canada, 90%, and the prospect of an independent Alberta struggling to get its resources out of its landlocked state, 93%, as convincing arguments. Well, as far as the 92% people, I've said this on the channel before. I mentioned it to Mitch Sylvester, Dennis Modry, I think maybe Jeff Rath, Corey Morgan, that getting around patriotism is a hard thing. People are going to say they're very patriotic, they love their country, but if you do meet up with somebody who is wanting to stay in Canada, ask them reasons why, but say they can't use patriotism as a reason, and they've got nothing. But we've got 20, 25 reasons why we should leave. As far as Alberta's fundamental place as a part of Canada, I think that's been eroding over time. And this one right here is something that we need to educate people about. We hear this all the time. We talk about this all the time. Struggling to get our resources out of its landlocked state. Alberta is landlocked right now, and the reason we can't get things out of here is because we have to go through Ottawa and ask for permission. If we become an independent country, we'll be able to negotiate with more power because we will be an independent country and we will have rights to the sea because it is international law. Don't pay attention to the polls. I do believe that the Ecos poll at 41% is closer to the real numbers here. I think this movement is gaining momentum. And the reason I say I think it's closer to 41% is because I'm out there talking to people. And we do have a lot of enthusiasm. And I think this movement is growing. I think we can win this. But we have to buckle down and work even harder. So if you haven't volunteered any of your time for the independence movement, do it now. Go to stayfreealberta.com and sign up to be a volunteer. Become a canvasser and gain and gather some petition signatures as well. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I'll see you in the next one.